Dear Venerable Bhante, Venerable Sisters and Brothers, Dhamma friends, today also we are going to take time for the Dhamma talk. May you all take seats comfortably and give the consent with 3 times, sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo tasse bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhasse. Namo tasse bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhasse. Namo tasse bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhasse. Katame tayo dhamma parinyeya tisso vedanati ti. Dear Venerable Sisters and Brothers, Dhamma friends, we are, along with this particular Sutta known as Dasuttara Sutta, Venerable Sariputta, Maha Thero, is urging us and asking us to be thorough with this the subject of feelings. So for the last few days, we have taken other quotations from the Tipitaka and try to understand what are the interrelatedness between the 3 kinds of feelings, the pleasurable, the painful, and the neither painful nor pleasurable kind of feelings. So that is also helping us to understand thoroughly about on this subject. And with that understanding, if we are to give some attention to the dependent origination, the place where the feeling is being placed is just before the tanha and after the contact. So therefore it is a very crucial role in this continuation of this perpetuation of samsara or perpetuation of our tanha, the desire. Vedana is the most proximate factor. As far as we do not know or we are not thorough about the feelings, may be pleasurable or painful or neither pain nor pleasure. As far as we are ignorant, we are not thorough about, the natural consequence is tanha, the desire. So when and where you become a mindful yogi and thorough with certain amount of theoretical understanding, book knowledge, and some contemplative and deductive knowledge, and on top of that, with the direct touch, with the mindfulness, instead of tanha, Vedana will lead to panya, the knowledge. So therefore the relationship between Vedana and tanha is malice. And when and where you become thorough, you may find the way to lead that to panya. Just before the Mahasi system, or Mahasi meditation system in Burma, there was a Mogok system, and this Mogok Sayadaw was very expert on this Paticcasamuppada. So he theoretically teach the yogis how the ignorance, avidya, is leading to sankhara, the volitional activities, and then how does it leads to vijnana, the consciousness. Like I say, teach the Paticcasamuppada in a theoretical way and pay special attention between the Vedana and Tanha. How does the Vedana leads to Tanha? Because it's also a question, because if as far as it is a pleasurable feeling leading to Tanha, we may accept it without a question. If it is a painful feeling, how does that pain lead to Tanha? And if you are practically aware or practically acquainted with this neither pain nor pleasure kind of feeling, does that also lead to the same way, to the same degree, to the tanha, is a theoretical question. So, according to this Burmese teaching, they say, pleasurable feeling leads to tanha, that we call pleasure principle. It's very obvious, so that is the point we start. And when and where you are met up with, or face to face with painful feeling, your whole manipulations or jugglery is to get a pleasurable feeling, and due to the craving for the pleasurable feeling, you hate painful feeling. So that is how the tanha is being introduced, because you are not happy with, or we can say you are not happy with painful feeling, because your mind is always seeking and searching, experimenting to have pleasurable feeling. So therefore, when and where painful feeling happens, your craving mind never be happy. Always searching for pleasurable thing or an alternative. So that means you have to hate the under the nose painful feeling. That is because your natural tendency, you happy always with the pleasure principle. And under such circumstances, then neither pain nor pleasure is not your subject matter. Because you know only pain and the pleasure. But when and where you learn it, theoretically or deductive way, you may understand there is a third aspect. There's neither pain nor pleasure. So when that happens, if you know it, it's a kind of pleasure. If you do not know, it leads to suffering. That is boredom, monotony, lethargic feeling. So there are also, you have been encouraged to be aware beforehand, theoretically, and when and where you are face to face with the no pain, no pleasure, lead the life in such a way to promote it, so that it is also leading to kind of a immaterial kind of pleasure. So does that also comes under tanha? So in the Chulavedalla Sutta, the Visakha Upasaka is asking, does that each and every pleasurable feeling leads to desire or underlying tendency of the desire? Does that each and every painful feeling leads to the hatred? Does each and every neither pain nor pleasure leads to ignorance? So categorically, Sister Dhammajiva is telling, there are some exceptions. And so therefore, there are very detailed understanding about that. When and where you have pleasurable feeling as a jhanic factor, for example, in the first jhana, second jhana like, and verily, Sister Dhammajiva is telling, that may not be underlying with the underlying tendency of the desire. And whenever someone is practice meditation, maybe with result-oriented. I wish to have so and so that kind of jhanic experience or insight knowledges or the final liberation. He or she also may get discouraged whenever they are not met up with that desired goal. There also kind of a pain arises. But it's in the meditative atmosphere. And there, Sister Dhammajiva is pointing out that may not be underlying with the underlying tendency of the hatred and the neither pain nor pleasure kind of feeling you may feel, according to her example, in the fourth jhana, that may not be always underlying with this ignorance. So these are kind of exceptions. So therefore, when and where Vedana is presented as a root cause for the tanha, you have to understand with certain amount of justification with the theoretical understanding. So if you know Vedana in detail or in thorough understanding, instead of tanha, or invariable consequence of tanha, you can pause there and see through it, and then see possibilities to arouse panya, the wisdom. So that is what we discussed yesterday and day before. When and where the particular Vedana happen, don't take it as a solid, concrete thing. Just see it's a transitional nature, transient nature, and this pleasurable feeling can change into pain, or painful feeling can change into pleasure, and in between, neither pain nor pleasure. If you go prepared, when and where you know now I am with face to face with the neither pain nor pleasure, that very understanding leads to aloneness. Otherwise you feel lonely. So changing from loneliness to aloneness, in this situation, happening because you go prepared, you have your own experience, past experience, so therefore to appreciate the solitude, to appreciate the aloneness, the understanding of neither pain nor pleasure is a must. So the day you go prepared and the day you experience under the nose this neither pain nor pleasure, you may understand the higher grade of solitude. It is not the physical one. It's a kind of the earned one, spiritual one, mental one. And you find within a day how many chances, how many opportunities are there for you to be unto yourself, be familiar with this neither pain nor pleasure kind of situation. Earlier you used to hate it. You were searching about hobbies and escapism and kind of thing. Instead, now you can be happy, understanding this is what does it mean by solitude. This is what does it mean by the contentment. This is what does it mean by the peace of mind. And that is unsplit mind, the holistic mind. So that is the way you can find the panya, you can find the wisdom in this particular neither pain nor pleasure kind of situation. So therefore, when and where Vedana happens, if your mind is taken for a ride with this permanent notion, pleasure principle, you have to understand, definitely you will end up with tanha. But instead, just like you are in breath and out breath, just like you are any physical activity like left leg and right leg, you can, if you can be thorough about this Vedana, you can see Vedana in the threefold way, pleasurable, painful, neither pain, no pleasure kind of situation, and you may see its transient nature, so therefore you will not be destined to lead to this tanha. Instead you can understand there are a lot of other variables, a lot of other channels whereby you can understand. So understanding that very subject of Vedana lead to Vedaya. Vedaya means the knowledge. Before the Buddha, the whole knowledge is known as Vedaya. Triveda means three kinds of knowledge, and the Buddha also used Prativeda. Prativeda means penetrative understanding. So in that sense, soon after the contact, our mind never go without categorizing that particular contact in pleasurable way, painful way, or if you are sharp enough, neither pain nor pleasure, and they are always with likings and disliking. So soon the contact happens, if you are sharp enough, if you are mindful enough, if you are well instructed enough, if you go prepared, you can see the rising of, then and the arising of the likings and disliking. In the Indriya Bhavana Sutta, the last one in the Majjhima Nikaya, the Buddha says that arising, that appearance of the likings and disliking, olarikam paticcasamuppannaṃ sankata. It's very obvious. If you are a yogi, with your past experience, with your preparedness, you can see when and where a touch, a contact happen, maybe a visual object or light perception to your eye, or any music or sound to your eardrum, or any smell to your nose, or taste to your taste buds, and to your tactile sensation in your sensitivity of your body, or any mental aspect to your mind, it never goes without a liking and disliking. And if you are a meditator, contemplative, you can understand the likings and disliking. That is the point. You can understand the external stimuli to your faculties coming from out to in, but the liking and disliking coming from in to out. Therefore, these two, transaction in these two are very obvious, just like in-breath coming from out to in, and very thing when it is going out, from in to out. So therefore, when you are doing in-breath and out-breath meditation, you are being asked to see the difference. The inflow, gushing, stream, and outflow, just like whenever the Vedana happens through this contact, the sound, light perception, light waves coming from out and strike on your sensitivity of your retina or your eye. As soon as it comes and strike, the liking and disliking coming from out and go, coming from in and go out. So when these two can discern, if you can discern, that is the point. The mindfulness is giving a chance, giving a kind of a pause, giving a kind of a thin slicing of time. And the moment you understand this likings and disliking, you are better off. And you see that liking and disliking is not your agenda, it is already pre-planned. And that is what you call myself. This is what you call who am I. So if you are brought up in a particular culture or particular civilization, your liking and disliking will be changed from another person brought up in a different climate, different culture. So therefore, to the same stimuli, two people coming from the different cultures have different interpretation. As a joke, it says, if you are brought up in Tibet, it's a very cold climate. And therefore, your mother will tell, if you do bad thing, you will go to hell. It's very, very cold. So therefore, don't do, because you have to end up with a cold climate. If you are brought up in Arabia, your mother will say, if you do bad thing, you go to the hell, and it will be very, very warm, it will be burning and torturing. Therefore, don't do it. And they will say, if you do good things, you will go to an evergreen place full of coolness, tropical climate, and therefore do good thing, because you can go to this kind of a heaven. And the Tibetan mother will say, if you do good thing, you'll go to a very warm place. So if you wish to go to hell, if you are an Arabic and go to hell, you have to go to the heaven of the Tibetan people. And you have to go to the heaven, you have to go to the hell of the Tibetan people. This is the way likings and dislikings happen. So as far as you are a frog in a well, you don't know. So these things are completely diverse. So understanding it first in theoretical way, and you deduce with your deductive knowledge, and just don't let the mere first perception and habitual thinking and these personality traits to play in a vehement way. Instead, just see whenever a touch happens, how much you face to face with them without the prejudgmental, premeditated trends. And there one can understand what's a kind of a person am I. Whenever such thing happen, I usually blame the thing, telling it carries the liking and disliking. No. Liking and disliking is your projection. And the thing is the thing. Otherwise you are leading to that kind of a wrong perception. And not only that, you get involved and you pass judgment and you commit, and your whole judgment and your inferences are often questionable, because you do it with your first impression, face value. So therefore, when and where you go in Vedana, thorough understanding, instead of just passing a quick decision, you may do more and more feasibility study. Let that it happen again and again. That means more observation and less judgmental. Then you can understand within that split second what a kind of change can happen. So that kind of a very dramatic episode you find in the Malunkyaputta Sutta, in the Samyutta Nikaya, in the Talayatana Samyutta. The Malunkyaputta was a very elderly person, became a monk. And one day, he's asking a private interview from the Buddha. The Buddha says no. He says, I have given all the instructions and you all fellows coming and asking private this thing like. Buddha is at the beginning just reprimand him. But later, Buddha is more compassionate than me. He gave a private interview anyway. And he says, okay, I will ask you questions and have your opinion, then I will lead you. The Buddha is asking, if you are to see something, you have yankinchi chakku vinyaya rupa adittang aditta pubbang na passati na passayanti. Kind of a visual object, it's a scenery, you have never seen. And you are not looking at it also for the moment. It is not to be seen, and in future also it will never come across. Under such circumstances, that kind of a visual object can create any repercussion in your mind, or desire, or liking, or any kind of a commitment. It says no. And it's asking any sound which you have never heard, now you are not listening, now you are not hearing, and in future also you are not going to hear. Can that create any kind of a commitment, desire, or any value judgment regarding your listening? And likewise, he is giving example for 6 doors with the 6 stimuli. And therefore the Buddha says, whatever the defilement arises, whatever the desire, the craving or hatred arises, it is happening here and now, what is under your very nose. So therefore, if you are taking care about what is happening here and now, and that will decide the next thought moment, you will be free of defilement. So therefore, I am telling you, be mindful here and now. As far as you keep the stream of consciousness here and now, the scenery that you have not seen or scenery we are not going to see in future, they are nothing to meditate upon. They are not creating suffering. They are not creating defilement. Don't worry about that. Be aware. Be mindful in the present moment. Like. So some of the other Malunkyaputta, the elderly monk, understand, and then he give a interpretation to the Buddha. Tell him, Bhante, what if I have gathered the message you gave properly, this is what I feel. So it is very, very detailed. Rupandisa sati mutta. He says, for an example, you see a visual object, a shape or a color, and unmindful. Rupandisa sati mutta piyanimittam manasikaroti. You feel happy that you see this particular object. In a sense, why he is happy about this visual object is, at the same time, hearing also takes place, smelling also takes place, tasting also may be neutral, or touching, thinking, but out of everything, your mind selected I do and the visual object. That is because it's the most dramatic, it is the most conspicuous, it's the most desirable. That is why whatever you see, there's a tendency for you to attach into that, because before you come into know that I am seer and I am face to face with this object, your mind has already filtered and selected seeing object and rejected all the five. So therefore, naturally you love what you have selected. So Rupandisa sati mutta, you are not mindful, you are driven by the pleasure principle. So when and where you have all the five faculties functioning and open, when and where you have all the external stimuli come and striking on your the sensitivities, you can select only one donkey at a time. That's a function of sankhara, or the selection of your mind. And whatever you come in contact with, you love it. You have your desire. Rupandisa sati mutta piyanimittam manasikarati. Virat sanratta chitto vedeti. And with happiness, saratta chitto means, what a nice thing that I have seen, like, you feel it. Tancha ajjosa tittati, and you plunge into that. You consider as you are a happy person because happen to see such a good thing, and therefore you keep on proliferating upon that. And when it is happening, lot of thinking, lot of fantasizing, lot of daydreamings can happen. So you are no more looking at the object, now you are in proliferating, daydreaming, fantasizing. That means you are eccentric, you are not in the present moment. So under such circumstances, a lot of unarisen defilements can arise. Your stream of consciousness becomes very, very vulnerable. And you may be carried away with your own fantasizing, daydreaming, and that is how you accumulate so much of defilements and you get a far distance from the final peace or liberation. This is what the way of our life, in discipline, without any restraint. It is searching for the pleasure principle. Out of 6 doors, whatever arising, you select it, reject other 5, because that is what going to give the more prominence, dramatic thing. That's what it happens. Instead, imagine that you have already developed mindfulness. Take the example of sitting meditation. At that time, to develop mindfulness, you are supposed to close your eyes. Out of 6 faculties, you make variables less and less. And supposed to go to a silent place. So your eyes are not much distracted, ears. And the nose and tongue, usually in the sitting meditation, won't make much of a fuss. they are neutral. And the body tactile sensation, you are asked not to have volitional movements. You just let it happen. Whatever the metabolic functions happening, and then mind must be fully focused to the body. And there it's as if that your 5 doors are closed, only the body tactile sensations are the one you are, your subject matter. And when you are focusing into that, maybe rising and falling, maybe breath, or maybe your touching point may come. And you, since you have reduced the amount of inflow, and increase the attention and the awareness, there's a better chance for you to see what is happening in this body tactile sensations. And that is how more observation, more close observation and vigilance, you take the upper hand of the mindfulness over this tactile sensation, and with that kind of understanding, that kind of under-the-nose experience, you just in the walking meditation, you do one intentional thing, that is walking, and try to apply the mindfulness to that walking the task, and try to keep it with the open eyes. Sounds may happen, and all the other things happen. How far you can do the tightrope walking like, keeping the attention with this walking. It is very challengeful, but anyway, the touch sensation of your soul is more gross than the breath at the nostril. Therefore, there's the consequence of the strength of the object is for your benefit. So when it is happening, you apply that to the day-to-day activities. Or for example, say when you go to the end of the walking path, and when you are now turning, you are in a posture junction, and there are more chances are there for your mind to go out, wandering, daydreaming, to see things, hear things. Under such circumstances, suppose that you have already developed mindfulness, and there Venerable Malunkyaputta is explaining, you see something, but you know you are a person with walking meditation, and you know you are at the end, and you know at the end you are more vulnerable. So therefore now we see a special kind of bird only you find in Chuanyan monastery. And then your mind will be utterly distracted to see, because it's a special kind of a bird. So you feel like happy, I see a special bird, but imagine all of a sudden you become self-aware. Did I come here and observe 8 precepts to see birds? Or am I supposed to entertain the bird lovers' hobby? So what is happening? And you see, when such a thing happens, immediately you again come back home. You become self-aware. Under such circumstances, naso rajyasi rupesu rupan disva patisato. He is not really take delight of the object. Instead, he feel kind of a moral shame and the moral fear. No, the bird is beautiful, it's a different issue. And my mind is distracted, it's a different issue. How can I reinstall my mindfulness? It is called satuppada. Satuppada means the distracted mind again come back home. Rupandisa patisato. Patisato also satuppada, just like re-established. Now you are very vividly or very vigilantly, you know what is happening. You are supposed to do slow walking. Your attention must be with the body consciousness, and it is touching the ground. That is what that is the place where you can have the most healthiest or least amount of defilements, because you know tactile sensation, the earth element. But instead what happens? The consciousness without prior notice jump into the eye consciousness, and change into the eye consciousness and entertaining visual objects, and you are the very person now understanding. And then it's happening, or it may be doing, the mind come back, mindfulness come back to the body tactile sensation, rupan disva patissato. He knows now I am distracted, I am unmindful, and he knows that unmindful situation I am more vulnerable, leading to open to unarisen defilement to arise, and instead better to go back home. At home I am more secured. Viratta citto vedeti. Even though bird is very colorful, even though it is a attractive thing, he is not much entertaining it. Viratta citto, he knows I am not supposed to do that, because you have experienced it before. Because you are being instructed, because you are prepared, and you know this part is more vulnerable. So therefore, chances are there for you to come back. Bird is beautiful, but you are not entertaining it. You are not getting delight of it. That is called the moral shame. That's called the moral fear. And that cannot happen through other kind of thing, unless otherwise you take this trial and error. One day, viratta citto, where you know that I am with eye consciousness. Bird is beautiful. Mind is naturally dragged into that. But my main task is come back to the body sensation, soul, touching the ground. He is not allowing mind to get more and more into the observing or seeing. So he is challenged now. Here you have very dramatic, natural tendency to see the beauty of the bird, and other side you have a safe haven. That is, you are at home feeling with the left leg and right leg. So therefore you are not fertilizing, feeding, this observing. Tancha najosa tittati is not get into it, entertaining. Yatasa passato rupang sevato japi vedana. At that time, Venerable Malunke Buddha says, of course you are observing visual objects, and you are with pleasurable feeling, desirable feeling. But you know the magic of the mind now. You know this part is more vulnerable, very colorful, and unless otherwise you are prepared with that, naturally you would have taken that option. But today, it's a coincidence, electric thing. You understand, I have my safe haven, I have my walking meditation, I have my mindfulness possibility to come back to this thing. So therefore, even the desire, even the liking is there. Now, he take refuge of his early meditative experience, trial and error, and then manage to come back. At that moment, you are the Buddha, you are the Dhamma, you are the Sangha, you are your precepts. And it's a transitional point or break-even point. The distraction is there. That is the bird we have taken as example. And eye consciousness is pulling you there. But instead you have already developed the body tactile sensation of body consciousness, and you know it is boring, it's monotonous, it's lethargic, but safe. That is the point where Venerable Malunke Buddha is telling the value, the power of the mindfulness. Even if you are in the wrong place, due to your already earned, accumulated mindfulness, you have a chance, you have an option to come back and take refuge of the already earned mindfulness with the tactile sensation, with your soul, with the ground. And at that time, mind is with, or potentially they are to have defilement, but you can bring it back. So that's a kind of vipassana. That's a kind of yonisomanikara. That's a kind of radical reflection. Otherwise, you can imagine what is happening to the uninstructed mind. Rupandisva, sati mutta, yanimittam manasikaroti. Without mindfulness, you see a visual object and forget about whatever the other senses, and you plunge into that, get absorbed and carried away. But instead now, you have tit-to-tat kind of understanding. You have this vulnerable part, you have this already earned mindfulness, and at that time, even you are with the object, visual object, even you are with the desirable part, you never entertain it, and you are sharpening your mindfulness. Evang so charati sato. That's the way mindfulness is evolving. That's the way mindfulness is, or faculty of mindfulness become power of mindfulness. At that moment, you can understand how many supporting and proximate causes must come aligned with for you to come up to that kind of a situation, but still safeguard your mindfulness, and not only safeguard, you are sharpening it. It is go to a higher diversification, and it's nicely mentioned, yatasa pasato rupang vedacho tapi vedana, sevato chapi vedana. Even if you are in the high consciousness, even you are with the desirability, but still you have your way back home. So when that happens, you are no more creating unarisen defilements, but instead all arisen defilement will become null and void. This is the only point you learn how to make defilements make null and void. It is not in the next life, but under your very nose. So Upandita Sayadaw used to say, put this in the common sense. Before see the bird, you are mindful on your leg or walking meditation. After this also, even after seeing the bird and you become distracted, wandering, and now again you bring back your primary object. So if you can make sure, before also you are mindful, after also mindful, in between area become null and void. That is your furtherance. That's the way you make use of mindfulness. Even the Vedana is happening, feeling is happening, it is leading to panya, it is leading to knowledge rather than invariable desire, invariable taken you for a ride. So that is the point, is changeover happens, but it must happen in your life 1,001 times. And there you can understand, situation is completely vulnerable, but only for your refuge, for your safety, your mindfulness, your experience, your preparedness, and you have to understand the sharpening happen not while you are sleeping, not while you are sitting and completely with the primary object. Sharpening happen whenever such a threat or such a challenge is happening, but you have to navigate in a very sharp way. When you are navigating, you can say, why the Buddha is telling, hey darling, I can't help you, I only can give the method. You have to do trial and error. You have to be sharp, you have to be on the board. And then only the mindfulness is going to give such a help, just like a true friend for this sansaric journey. Evam apachinato dukkhan. He says that is the way you rid of all the defilements and the suffering. Santike Nibbanam Uchati is almost at the doorway of the Nibbana. So it is, in the conventional way, it says you have to fulfill all the perfections and go there and wait till the Metteya, the Buddha, to come. So therefore it's a long journey to achieve Nibbana. But here it says, it is under your very nose, but that Nibbana refer here is momentary one. At that moment you can have it. But you have to understand next moment again you may entertaining a bird. Then again you are vulnerable. Again you have to make the thing align, and again you can have another thought moment like that. And the most great advantage is once you learn the art, then it becomes adventurous. Then it becomes like a hobby. You are not much worried about the wandering mind. Each and every time mind becomes wander, you try to be smart and bring the attention back to the primary object and see, before the wandering I was mindful, after the wandering I am mindful. So therefore this wandering mind cannot add more defilements or suffering. So I know now the art of how to make these defilements null and void. And so you have, only tool you have to do is repetitive application. Again and again, there you can say, if you go unprepared, Vedana leads to Tanha. If you go prepared, and if you are sharp enough, then Vedana lead to Panya. You can understand how much I must be vigilant and diligent to safeguard this situation. So, in the Dhammapada also, the Buddha says, Sache uppajjati kodang ratang bhrantang vadhari. So when you are, when you become a charioteer, when you are leading a horse cart, and if your chariot is about to go off the track, and whole your effort must be not to let the chariot go off the track, hold this as much as possible without slip off, without toppling, then the Buddha says, I call you are a skillful man, skillful charioteer. But if you get excited and you do not know what to do, and then if the chariot is going to slip off from the road, then damage is immeasurable. So your whole must be to reduce the damage. In a climate like that, if you are driving a vehicle, car, and if it's about to slip, how to apply the brake and the clutch? If you vehemently apply high brake, then the car will skid and rotate around. So instead you have to apply again, release, and again apply, again, release. Like that kind of discipline, under such circumstances, very difficult to happen, unless otherwise you go prepared, unless otherwise you have your own experience. So therefore, when we are going in a single track, something like in walking, there are a lot of distractions to see: eye consciousness, ear consciousness, nose, tongue, other bodily tactile sensation and thinking. Whenever your vehicle is off the track, you must understand how to apply the clutch and how to apply the brake, and don't get excited. Don't let that accident to taken you for a ride. Some or the other, safeguard your path, your road, without toppling off. So therefore, do you think, for that kind of a situation, your mother and father come and save you? Or your guardian God can come and save you? Or any other merit can save you? Your skillfulness must be there. It must be under your very nose. That is what you call the vigilance. That's what you call the diligence. And therefore the mindfulness has this epithet or the synonym. The Buddha used appamada as well as sati as synonyms. Appamada means the diligence, the vigilance. The opposite of appamada is negligence. You are lethargic. You are not at the, not under your nose, not at the event. So, to have this kind of a diligence, have this kind of vigilance, you have to start with one thing at a time, and that done well kind of a training, and then slowly let the mindfulness to diversify, and that is how the diligence and the vigilance together with the mindfulness, you become, this is what you call enlightening. You are enlightened. You are always beyond the ball. You are not expecting that formula or this formula or that magic or this magic to happen. You take care about the present moment. So that is the way, that's the same tool we apply to the Vedana or to the feeling, and not to carried away, taken for a ride by pleasurable feeling in the positive way and the painful feeling in a negative way on the or human reaction, and just to avoid the neither pain nor pleasure, but have equal attention or evenly suspended attention to the pleasure, to the pain, to the neither pain no pleasure kind of situation. And it is something possible, it is something feasible, it is something, a possibility, but not by overnight or by listening a single talk or magical formula. You have to practice again and again. So to sum up, I would say, unless otherwise you are diligent, vigilant, Vedana lead to Tanha. If you are vigilant and diligent, if you are mindful, you may find a way, Vedana lead to Panya, to the knowledge, that day onward, you are looking at the day-to-day events or confrontation with objects or phenomena completely as a novelty in the new person. Not let your opinions and your premeditative ideas and these things carried you for a ride, but fresh here and now understanding, and that is the way you can live in this world with full of vicissitudes, but find the equilibrium in the center. And more you practice, you may learn the art and how to not to carried away by these extremes and to take refuge more and more on the middle. As far as the Vedana are concerned, it is neither pain nor pleasure kind of feeling. So with that remark, I would like to sum up the day's talk. Thank you very much for listening. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.